Hi, friends, and welcome to our latest edition of Keeping Up with the Jackrabbits. And this week we are joined by quarterbacks coach, a jack of all trades. He's performed many tasks during his time here at SDSU. Delighted to have Zach Lujan with us. How is the Pride of Alaska today?
Not sure about pride, but I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Now, I mention Alaska. I would love for you to entertain our audience the way you did me the other day by telling me about your voyage to the home state recently.
Yeah, it was very nice. For those of you guys that don't know, I'm from Anchorage, Alaska, obviously, like Tyler mentioned, but my family still lives up there. So it was big for me to kind of get up and get home, obviously spend some time with them. I was able to talk our defensive line coach, Christian Smith, into coming with me and, I had to pretend to be a real Alaskan mountain man and do all the fishing, camping, hiking, that kind of stuff, so it was a lot of fun. It helps too. My two brothers are in their big boy toys, so they're all kinds of, four-wheelers, dirt bikes, jet skis, that kind of stuff. So it was a lot of fun to be able to do some of that stuff the last couple of weeks here.
You don't get to go back to Alaska in the month of June traditionally.
June's one of my favorite months because it's camp season for us. So what that means is pretty much the first half of the camp, trekking around at least the Midwest, usually all over the country, and going to different prospect camps and evaluating prospective student athletes and recruits and that whole deal. So it's, might have 10 days and be in 8 different cities at 7 different camps. And that's kind of what makes it a lot of fun, followed by our camp circuit where we bring on, last year, I want to say we brought 2,500 kids on campus throughout the month of June, really the back half of June. With our team camps and our own prospect camps and that kind of stuff. So you're very much right. It's a little bit of a different year, but I guess with all the social distancing and working from home, as long as you have a laptop like I did, you can kind of work from anywhere.
Trying to keep up with potential student athletes, following what's going on, keeping up with current student athletes. What have the past few months been like?
Interesting. I think it would be kind of the best verbiage for it. Kind of one of those things. Every day is Groundhog Day, where you wake up and get a deja vu moment that you did the same thing yesterday. But it's just been different in terms of our communication. A lot more phone calls, a lot more Zoom, FaceTime type stuff, and then sending out content, sending out videos about the university and that sort of thing to try to inform them initially on everything that South Dakota State is and has to offer. And then the next step with that is kind of building a relationship, which, in terms of our staff, I think that's one of our biggest strengths is being personable and being able to relate to student athletes and why we've been able to do a good job the last couple of years recruiting. So it's just, been a hurdle where that we've definitely overcome the best we possibly can. And it's just a different year for the student athletes getting recruited this year. So something they understand, and they've been on many of virtual visits as we're doing, and it's something that I think we're becoming more and more accustomed to now.
Being so involved in recruiting and also being one of the younger coaches on staff, you mentioned a relationship with Christian Smith, and football is the biggest area of this from any of the sports that South Dakota State has when it comes to having the mix of white and black. And there's been so much here over the past few weeks that has come out, and I know that has obviously generated tremendous feelings for members of the student body and student athletes. What have those conversations been like with the student athletes and with the coaching staff dealing with all of this over the past few weeks and all the issues from Black Lives Matter?
Powerful, I think, would be the best statement there. And one of the things that we did is, rather than what I feel society does a lot of times is kind of turns a blind eye or throws a comment here and there, we try to face everything going on head on, and talking, first in small groups, but then as an entire football team about everything that's going on in the world today, and opening up the platform for a lot of our minority and Black student athletes to talk about their experiences and talk about various things. And it was powerful. Myself, I'm Mexican American, so a minority from that standpoint, but obviously a very different lens than than our black student athletes had when they were here and are here. So it's been powerful to learn to understand and ultimately get on the same page and push through everything that's going on together.
Let's turn a little lighter here. It's an interesting note that I always get a kick out of, the fact that we talk about recruiting student athletes and how so often you bring them up for a game or they may come and watch other games, and yet your first game that you ever witnessed at what was then Coughlin Alumni Stadium was your first college start.
Very much so. First of all, my recruiting process was more the anomaly. I guess the exception than the rule.
You've always been the exception to the rule.
Hey, what can I say? A Mexican from Alaska living in South Dakota. So trying to keep it unique from that standpoint. So I most of my recruitment, all of my recruitment with South Dakota State began and ended in kind of the month of March, following my freshman football season. So it was kind of, very different in terms of seeing the atmosphere. But one of the things that I was able to do was get on campus and meet the people, who can kind of paint that picture for me, as well as, seeing the facilities and seeing videos and pictures of what the stadium looked like, what that atmosphere actually was. So fortunately, we're in a digital age, so we can do some of that stuff, obviously getting it out, video and that sort of things, but it's very different in terms of like you're saying, being able to do that. So ideally everything goes according to plan, and we're playing football games this fall and able to bring a lot of those guys up this fall who we've been actively recruiting. But right now it's been a chunk of the recruiting puzzle that's been missing.
This is an interesting year for Jackrabbit football because there's so much talk about the quarterback position, and you've got two individuals who are pups. One is a third-year sophomore, one's a second-year sophomore, and yet both have started multiple games and beaten top 25 teams as a starter. So there's tremendous competition, assuming both guys are healthy, and yet this is a position group that you oversee, that you have a tremendous vision here when it comes to this situation, because you lived this in an extent as a student athlete. So how does your going through what you and Taryn Christian did, how does that help as you look at what could be going on here with Jabore Gibbs and Keaton Heide this coming fall?
Very much so. I think the benefit that we have and the benefit we had back in my day, it feels weird saying that, is I think there's both of them are all conference caliber guys, and both of them can lead us to a national championship. The deciding factor is really going to be from an overall standpoint, including leadership, including decision making, including playmaking, all of the above. Who gives us the best opportunity to win? And that's going to be focused on. And, both are very good opportunities to win. And there's no doubt in my mind that whoever we're going out there is going to be going to perform at a high level. So the biggest thing that I took away from, my competition with Taryn was it doesn't have to be ugly. It doesn't have to be something that's a scene from a drama on Netflix or whatever it is. Taryn and I had a strong and have a strong relationship, throughout that entire process. And the one thing that took pride in was we weren't going to lose because of me. I was going to make sure I prepared and did everything as a starter from that standpoint. But even more importantly, and for a much longer period of time, I know I pushed them to be better. And competition, always bring out the best in people, I think is going to be extremely positive. And I'm excited to get back and see all the hard work those guys have been doing these last few months here.
Great insight, and let's hope that we're able to be watching Jackrabbit football here in about 10 weeks.
Hey, I'm first and foremost, thanks, Tyler, for taking the time here. Really always have a blast, whenever we get the chance to sit down and talk. And hopefully, like you said, 10 weeks we have football, but you and I will be having these conversations in person before then. So looking forward to it.
All right, you take care, my man. For Zach Lujan, I'm Tyler Merriam. Thank you for joining us in our latest edition of Keeping Up with the Jackrabbits.